Welcome, fellow travelers of Middle-Earth, to another thrilling episode of Middle-Earth and Its Fantasies. As the dust settles in the aftermath of the War of the Ring, whispers abound about the fate of one of the most feared creatures to stalk the lands, the Balrog of Moria. While the clash of armies and the triumph of good over evil captured the headlines, one question remains tantalizingly unanswered. Why did Sauron, the Dark Lord himself, not unleash the mighty Balrog upon his foes? Join us in today's video as we venture into the depths of Sauron's mind, uncovering the enigma behind his decision. But before we embark on this epic journey of discovery, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for all the latest updates. And if you find yourself captivated by our content, spread the word to your fellow adventurers. Together, let's unlock the secrets of Middle-Earth. But before we begin, if you're new to Hidden Kingdoms, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell to join our fellowship on future adventures. The nature of the Balrog, a solitary sentinel. Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Moria, stands as a creature of immense power and ancient lineage. Yet it is not merely its strength that defines it. Within the dark recesses of Moria, amidst the echoing chambers and silent halls, the Balrog embodies a profound sense of solitude and fear. In J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, the Balrogs are depicted as ancient spirits of fire and shadow, remnants of the primordial discord wrought by Melkor, the fallen Vala. These fiery demons, once mighty servants of Morgoth, now dwell in secluded places, shunning the outside world and the conflicts that rage across Middle-Earth. Durin's Bane, like its brethren, harbors a festering rage and a desire for retribution, yet beneath its fiery exterior lies a soul weary of strife. The Balrog's actions within Moria betray a creature bound to its haven, warding off intruders and seeking solace in the depths under the misty mountains. It is not driven by ambition or conquest, but rather by a solemn reluctance to once more dance in the flames of war. The tumultuous events of the War of the Ring may have stirred echoes of its ancient wrath, yet the Balrog remained steadfast in its resolve to remain hidden. Its sanctuary beneath the mountains offered a refuge from the dangers that awaited beyond, a world filled with peril and uncertainty. Perhaps, deep within its fiery heart, it trembled at the thought of facing the judgment of the Valar, fearing a fate more dire than any mortal doom. Moreover, his reluctance to engage in the affairs of the world may stem from a sense of weariness and disillusionment. Having witnessed the fall of Morgoth and the vanquishing of its brethren, it may have grown weary of the endless cycle of destruction and despair. In the solitude of Moria, far from the prying eyes of the world, it sought solace in its own company, content to slumber in the depths of time. Thus, while Durin's Bane may possess the power to unleash untold devastation upon its foes, its reluctance to embrace the call of war ultimately renders it an unlikely ally for Sauron. In the darkness of Moria, amidst the shadows and silence, the Balrog remains a solitary sentinel, guarding its ancient domain with a vigilance born of fear and resignation. Divergent ambitions, Sauron and the Balrog. In the intricate tapestry of Tolkien's mythology, the ambitions and desires of its characters often clash and diverge, shaping the course of history in unforeseen ways. Within this grand narrative, the Balrog of Moria and Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor, represent two distinct yet intertwined threads of evil, each driven by its own desires and objectives. At the heart of Durin's Bane lies a primal urge for destruction and chaos, a legacy inherited from its master, Morgoth, the fallen Valar. From the depths of the void, Morgoth sought to defy the will of Eru Ilúvatar and bring about the ruin of Arda, plunging the world into darkness and despair. His minions, the Balrogs, embodied this desire for destruction, wielding fire and shadow as weapons of terror and devastation. Similarly, Sauron, once a servant of Morgoth, harbored ambitions of his own, yet they differed markedly from those of his former master. While Morgoth sought to dominate and destroy, Sauron craved order and dominion, envisioning a world shaped according to his will. From the forging of the Rings of Power to the tumultuous War of the Ring, Sauron's grand design revolved around the imposition of his rule upon all of Middle-Earth. It is within this context of divergent ambitions that we must understand Sauron's lack of interest in recruiting Durin's Bane to his cause. While the Balrog may share common adversaries with Sauron, the threads of their desires weave disparate paths through the fabric of their souls. For the Balrog, loyalty to Morgoth and a desire for chaos and destruction define its essence, whereas Sauron's vision of structured control and dominion aligns more closely with his own ambitions. The Balrog's allegiance to Morgoth, its master and creator, may have shaped its perceptions of the world and its role within it. In the dark days of the First Age, Morgoth and his minions sought to overthrow the works of the Valar and subjugate all of creation to their will. The Balrogs, as loyal servants of Morgoth, shared in his desires and aspirations, reveling in the chaos and destruction wrought by their master's hand. Sauron's objectives were more nuanced and far-reaching, extending beyond mere destruction to encompass the establishment of a new order upon the ruins of the old. From his stronghold in Mordor, Sauron sought to bend all of Middle-Earth to his will, crushing resistance and opposition with an iron fist. To achieve his aims, he employed cunning and deceit, manipulating events from behind the scenes to further his own agenda. Thus, while Durin's Bane may possess the raw power to wreak havoc upon Sauron's enemies, its allegiance to Morgoth and its inherent desire for chaos and destruction make it an unlikely ally for the Dark Lord. In the tangled webs of deceit and ambition that characterize Tolkien's mythology, the Balrog of Moria remains a solitary and enigmatic figure bound to its master's will and the legacy of its own creation. The Divine Hierarchy. Power dynamics between Sauron and the Balrog. In the divine hierarchy of Tolkien's legendarium, beings of immense power and ancient lineage wielded authority and influence over the world of Arda. Among these celestial entities were the Ainur, the Holy Ones, who descended from the timeless halls of Eru Ilúvatar to shape the world according to their will. At the apex of this hierarchy stood the Valar, the powers of the world, who possessed unrivaled authority and dominion over the forces of nature and the course of history. These mighty beings, among whom Morgoth was counted, shaped the world in its infancy, guiding its growth and development according to their own designs. Below the Valar were the Maiar, the lesser spirits, who served as their servants and agents in the world. Among the Maiar were Sauron and Durin's Bane, each possessing power and authority in their own right, yet subject to the will of their masters. It is within this framework of divine hierarchy that we must understand the power dynamics between Sauron and the Balrog of Moria. Despite Sauron's status as a mighty Maiar, his authority and influence were not absolute, particularly in the absence of the One Ring, which served as the focal point of his power. Durin's Bane, while also a Maiar, wielded considerable power and authority in its own right, derived from its ancient lineage and association with Morgoth. As a servant of the fallen Valar, the Balrog commanded respect and fear among the creatures of Middle-Earth, its fiery presence striking terror into the hearts of all who beheld it. The Balrog's status as a creature of fire and shadow imbued it with a measure of autonomy and independence, allowing it to act according to its own desires and objectives. While Morgoth may have been its master and creator, the Balrog possessed a will of its own, shaped by millennia of existence and experience. Sauron's ability to compel obedience from Durin's Bane was limited by a number of factors, including the Balrog's inherent power and authority, its allegiance to Morgoth, and its own desires and objectives. While Sauron may have possessed the ability to sway lesser beings to his cause through deceit and manipulation, the Balrog's status as a fellow Maiar made it resistant to such efforts. Moreover, the absence of the One Ring further diminished Sauron's ability to exert control over the Balrog, as the ring served as the focal point of his power and authority. Without the ring, Sauron's influence was greatly diminished, leaving him vulnerable to the machinations of other powerful beings, including Durin's Bane. Thus, while Sauron may have desired to harness the power of the Balrog for his own purposes, the limitations imposed by the Balrog's status as a fellow Maiar, its allegiance to Morgoth, and the absence of the One Ring made such efforts futile. In the cosmic struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos, Sauron and the Balrog remained enigmatic and formidable figures, each pursuing their own objectives and desires in the shadowed depths of Middle-Earth. Sauron's strategic mindset: control versus destruction. Sauron, ever the master strategist, crafted his plans with meticulous precision, weaving intricate webs of deception and manipulation to achieve his grand designs. His ultimate goal was dominion over Middle-Earth, not merely through brute force, but through the careful exertion of influence, control, and fear. This grand strategy necessitated allies who could be directed and controlled, ensuring that every move on the chessboard of war would serve his ultimate aim. Durin's Bane, however, did not fit neatly into this design. The Balrog's nature was one of chaos and destruction, of force, of primordial fear that had little interest in the intricacies of Sauron's plans. While the Balrog possessed immense power, its capacity for indiscriminate destruction could easily turn against Sauron's carefully constructed schemes. Sauron's strength lay not just in his ability to wage war, but in his capacity to dominate the wills of others, bending them to his purposes. The Balrog, with its ancient allegiance to Morgoth and its own fierce autonomy, presented a wild card that Sauron could ill afford to play. In the broader context of the War of the Ring, Sauron's primary objective was to retrieve the One Ring, the source of his ultimate power. His efforts were focused on drawing out the ring-bearer and bringing the ring back to Barad-dûr. The deployment of the Balrog could have disrupted this delicate balance, as its mere presence could have attracted the attention of the free peoples of Middle-earth, complicating Sauron's plans. Additionally, the Balrog's involvement could have led to unintended consequences, such as drawing Gandalf and the other members of the Fellowship into battle, thereby increasing the risk to Sauron's overarching goal. Furthermore, Sauron's use of power was deeply rooted in the ability to corrupt and control. His dominion over the Nazgûl, his influence over Saruman, and his manipulation of the peoples of Middle-earth all stemmed from his capacity to impose his will on others. The Balrog, however, was a being of immense power in its own right, with no need for Sauron's guidance or leadership. It was a creature of destruction, not of control, and its unpredictable nature posed a threat to the very order that Sauron sought to impose. Sauron's decision to leave the Balrog undisturbed in the depths of Moria was therefore a calculated one. It was a recognition of the need for precision and control in his plans, rather than the reckless unleashing of power. The Balrog, while a formidable force, did not align with Sauron's strategic vision. Instead, it remained a solitary force of terror in the deep places of the world, a reminder of the ancient evils that still lingered in the shadows, but not a tool for Sauron to wield in his quest for dominion. The legacy of Morgoth, a shadow over Sauron's ambitions. The shadow of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, loomed large over Sauron's ambitions. As his former lieutenant, Sauron inherited much of Morgoth's power and knowledge, yet he also inherited the legacy of failure that came with it. Morgoth's defeat at the end of the First Age was a catastrophic loss for the forces of darkness, and it left a deep wound in the fabric of Middle-earth. The defeat of Morgoth also marked the end of an era of unrestrained chaos and destruction, a time when the forces of darkness roamed freely and unchecked. Sauron, in his rise to power, sought to avoid the mistakes of his former master. Unlike Morgoth, who had sought to dominate through sheer force and terror, Sauron understood the value of subtlety and control. He knew that his power would be best exercised not through wanton destruction, but through the careful manipulation of events and the corruption of hearts and minds. This strategic difference was crucial in Sauron's approach to power and in his decision not to use the Balrog. Durin's Bane, as a relic of Morgoth's era, embodied the very chaos and destruction that Sauron sought to distance himself from. The Balrog was a creature of unbridled power, a symbol of the old world that Morgoth had tried and failed to dominate. By choosing not to ally with the Balrog, Sauron was making a deliberate break from the past, distancing himself from the chaotic legacy of Morgoth and instead forging a path that relied on control and domination, rather than mere destruction. This divergence in approach also reflected Sauron's understanding of the broader context of Middle-earth's history. The free peoples of Middle-earth had already experienced the horrors of Morgoth's reign, and they were prepared to resist any force that resembled the old ways of terror and destruction. Sauron knew that to achieve his goals, he needed to present a different kind of threat, one that could not be easily recognized or resisted. The Balrog, with its raw, untamed power, was too reminiscent of the old ways to be of any real use to Sauron in this new age. Sauron was acutely aware of the limitations of his own power. Despite his strength, he was not invincible, and his plans required careful execution. The Balrog, with its uncontrollable nature and allegiance to a long-defeated master, represented a potential threat to Sauron's carefully laid plans. If the Balrog had chosen to act independently or turn against Sauron, it could have jeopardized everything he had worked to achieve. Thus, Sauron's decision not to use the Balrog was not just a matter of practicality, but also a reflection of his understanding of the broader forces at play in Middle-Earth. It was a recognition that the world had changed since the days of Morgoth, and that to succeed where his master had failed, Sauron needed to adapt his strategies and tactics to fit the new reality. The fear of unleashing an uncontrollable force. One of the most compelling reasons for Sauron's decision to leave the Balrog undisturbed lies in the inherent risk of unleashing a force that could not be controlled. The Balrog, a creature of immense power and ancient malevolence, was not a being that could be easily commanded or directed. Its allegiance to Morgoth, combined with its own desire for destruction, made it a dangerous and unpredictable ally. In the grand scheme of Sauron's plans, control was everything. His ability to dominate the wills of others, to bend them to his purpose, was the foundation of his power. The One Ring, which he had forged with this very intent, was the ultimate expression of this desire for control. Through the ring, Sauron sought to bring all of Middle-Earth under his dominion, to create a world in which his will was absolute. The Balrog, however, was a force of chaos, not order. Its very nature was antithetical to the kind of control that Sauron sought to impose. By unleashing the Balrog, Sauron would have introduced an element of unpredictability into his plans, a force that could not be easily controlled or directed. The risk of the Balrog turning against him or causing destruction that was counterproductive to his goals was too great for Sauron to take. Moreover, the Balrog's power, while formidable, was not the kind of power that Sauron needed to achieve his objectives. The Balrog's strength lay in its ability to destroy, to sow fear and chaos. But Sauron's strength lay in his ability to manipulate, to corrupt, and to control. The two forms of power were not compatible, and Sauron understood that introducing the Balrog into his plans would have been more of a hindrance than a help. There was also the matter of the Balrog's independence. Unlike the Nazgul or the Orcs, who were bound to Sauron's will, the Balrog was a creature with its own will and its own agenda. Its allegiance to Morgoth was a reminder that it was not a being that could be easily swayed or controlled. Sauron knew that any attempt to command the Balrog could have resulted in resistance or even open conflict, a risk that he was not willing to take. His presence would have drawn unwanted attention to Sauron's plans. The creature's reappearance would have been a significant event in Middle-Earth, one that would have alerted Sauron's enemies to the presence of a new and powerful threat. This could have galvanized the Free Peoples into a more united and determined resistance, something that Sauron wanted to avoid at all costs. Thus, the fear of unleashing an uncontrollable force, combined with the inherent incompatibility between the Balrog's nature and Sauron's plans, ultimately led the Dark Lord to leave Durin's Bane undisturbed. The Balrog remained a powerful and terrifying presence in the depths of Moria, but it was not a tool that Sauron could afford to use in his quest for dominion over Middle-Earth. Sauron's confidence in his existing forces. Another crucial factor in Sauron's decision not to employ the Balrog was his confidence in the strength and effectiveness of his existing forces. Sauron had spent centuries building an army of unparalleled might, composed of orcs, trolls, men, and other fell creatures. The Nazgul, his most trusted servants, served as his enforcers and lieutenants, wielding fear and death in his name. Sauron believed that with these forces at his command, he could achieve his goals without the need for additional, unpredictable elements like the Balrog. Sauron's armies were vast and disciplined, capable of overwhelming any opposition through sheer numbers and brute force. His orcs, bred for war, were numerous and relentless, while his trolls and other monstrous forces added a layer of brute strength to his military might. The Easterlings and Haradrim, men from the east and south, bolstered his armies with their own warriors and beasts, creating a force that could challenge the free peoples of Middle-Earth on all fronts. The Nazgul, or Ringwraiths, were Sauron's most powerful servants, each bound to him through the power of the One Ring. These fearsome beings operated with precision and deadly efficiency, capable of spreading terror and obedience wherever they went. Sauron relied heavily on the Nazgul to carry out his will and to maintain control over his vast dominion. The addition of the Balrog, while powerful, would have added a volatile element to this well-established hierarchy. Sauron's confidence in his existing forces also stemmed from his belief in the effectiveness of his strategies. The siege of Minas Tirith, the assault on Helm's Deep, and the countless skirmishes across Middle-Earth demonstrated the overwhelming power of his armies. He believed that through sheer force, and with the One Ring ultimately returned to him, he could crush all resistance. The Balrog's destructive power, while immense, was not necessary to achieve these objectives and could have even disrupted the carefully laid plans that Sauron had put into motion. He understood that controlling the Balrog would require a significant effort that might distract from his focus on the more critical tasks at hand. The Balrog was not like the easily controlled orcs or even the more powerful Nazgul. It was an ancient, independent being with its own will, and bringing it into his service would have been a challenge that Sauron may have seen as an unnecessary risk. Instead, Sauron opted to rely on the strength and discipline of his existing forces, trusting that they would be sufficient to achieve his goals. In the end, Sauron's decision not to utilize the Balrog was rooted in his confidence in the forces he had already assembled, and the belief that his plans would succeed without the need for such an unpredictable and dangerous ally. The Balrog remained a formidable and fearsome presence in the depths of Moria, but it was a force that Sauron chose to leave undisturbed, focusing instead on the tools and allies that he could control and direct with precision. Thank you for delving into the depths of Middle-Earth's mysteries with us, as we explored why Sauron chose not to unleash the Balrog upon his foes. If you found this journey through the shadows of Moria intriguing, don't forget to leave your mark by liking and sharing this video with your fellow travelers. Our quest to illuminate the enigmatic corners of Tolkien's world continues, with forthcoming explorations into the lore of the Maiar, the Istari, the Balrogs, and beyond. Your curiosity fuels our journey, and we eagerly anticipate our next encounter on Realms Revealed. Until then, may the echoes of Middle-Earth's past guide your path, and may the flickering flames of Durin's Bane shed light on the mysteries that lie ahead. This is Hidean Kingdom, signing off. Join us next time as we delve deeper into the secrets of Middle-Earth.